For round 1 of the feet, we're going to be starting off with ivory yarn and a slip knot. We're then going to chain 4. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're going to make an increase in the second chain from the hook. That's 2 single crochets in the same stitch. The next chain gets a single crochet. The next chain gets a 4 single crochet increase, meaning 4 single crochets in the same spot. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. Then a single crochet in the next spot, and in our final spot, which is also the first spot we started in, we will make an increase. And that brings us to the end of round 1. For round 2, we're going to start off by making 2 increases. So that's increase number 1. Next stitch gets increase number 2. Next stitch gets a single crochet. The next 4 stitches will each receive an increase. That's increase number 1. Increase number 2. Increase number 3. And increase number 4. Next stitch gets a single crochet, and the last 2 stitches gets an increase each. Let's increase 1, and in the last stitch, increase number 2. Now normally we would be placing the stitch marker back into this spot, but we're going to add 1 shift stitch just to move our marker 1 stitch forward so that we are in the correct position for the rest of the foot. So this doesn't change our count of stitches, it just moves the position of the stitch marker and brings us to the end of round 2. For round 3, we're going to make 18 slip stitches, 1 in each stitch. So to make the slip stitch, you go under both loops of your stitch, you hook the yarn, you pull it back through both loops of the stitch, and you pull it through the loop you've got on your hook, and that is called a slip stitch. So under the stitch, hook the yarn, back through the stitch and through the loop on your hook to create a slip stitch. And you're just going to do that all the way around. You don't want to make your slip stitches too tight, and it can be hard to keep them nice and loose if you're still a beginner. So if you're new at this, I'd recommend that for this round only you move up to a larger hook size. We've been using a 3,5. You can move up to a 4,5 just to make your slip stitches and keep them nice and loose without them pulling too tight. If you pull too tight on them, you will struggle to get into your slip stitches when you are working the next round. So for this round, use a larger hook. If you don't have a 4,5, you can use a 4mm. You could even use a 5mm hook to make these stitches, just to keep them to a nice loose size. So that's number 16, number 17, and our last one, number 18. Now we're going to be changing color to mist in the next round, so at this point you can just snip your ivory off short, and that brings us to the end of round 3. Okay, for round 4 we're going to change color. So we start by hooking our new color through our stitch, and then we pull on the ivory. We want to pull that ivory stitch tight so that it actually disappears and we're left only with a mist colored stitch. We then chain 1 and we're going to start working in this slip stitch here. Now when you look at the stitch you can see it makes a V. The line closest to your body is called the front loop. The line furthest away from your body is called the back loop. For this round we're only going to work on the back loops. So you're actually sticking your needle through the V, under the back loop, and then you're making your single crochet there. So instead of going under both loops, you go into the V, under the back loop, and you make your single crochets there. So we're going to be making 18 single crochets, 1 in each back loop of each slip stitch. So that's number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and last stitch 18, which brings us to the end of round 4. For round 5 we're going to make 18 single crochets. We're going back to our normal way of working through both loops, but remember at the beginning of the previous round you started off with a chain stitch and only then made your single crochet. So for this round you want to skip that chain stitch and you want to start working in the single crochet. If you don't skip the chain stitch you're going to end up with 19 stitches instead of 18. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Brings us to the end of round 5. For round 6 we're going to start with 3 single crochets. It's 1, 2, and 3. We're then going to use a mini pattern of a single crochet followed by a decrease, and we're going to repeat that 4 times. So that's a single with a decrease, it's repetition 1, single with a decrease is repetition 2, a single with a decrease is repetition 3, a single with a decrease is repetition 4, and then we're going to make 3 singles in the last 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and 3, which brings us to the end of round 6. For round 7 we're going to start with 5 single crochets. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to follow that with 2 decreases. So it's decrease number 1 and decrease number 2, and we're then going to make 5 single crochets again. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 and 5. That brings us to the end of round 7. For round 8, 9 and 10 we are going to make 12 single crochets in each round. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. It's the end of round 8. For round 9 and 10 you're going to do exactly the same thing, making 12 single crochets per row, so I'm going to show you that on fast forward. Next we're going to be stuffing the foot, so we're just going to take some stuffing and push it down into the foot itself. You want to stuff the foot quite firmly, but you want to leave the leg section empty, so just be careful not to fill up the entire shape. Just want to push it in there so that it fills the foot up nicely. Go, and you want to leave the leg section unstuffed. As you can see, a lot of my fingers still fit in there where there is no stuffing. For round 11 we're going to make 6 decreases, so stitch 1 and 2 gets our first decrease, stitch 3 and 4 gets our second decrease, stitch 5 and 6 gets our third decrease, stitch 7 and 8 gets our fourth decrease, stitch 9 and 10 gets our fifth decrease, and stitch 11 and 12 will get our last decrease. Sorry for the rude chihuahuas interrupting us. You're going to finish off your round with a slip stitch. You don't need to leave a long end because we're going to create movable arms, movable legs like we did with the movable arms, so you can just snip it off short, put your end on your tapestry needle, weave the needle in and out around the opening that you've created. Once you've gone all the way around, pull tight, push your needle in the center and come out at any random spot. Then snip off the tail, which leaves you with a foot and a leg. You're going to need 2 of these, so go back to the beginning of this video and crochet a second foot. Once you've got 2, come back here and we'll show you how to attach them properly. Next we will be pinning the legs into place for Kylie the Koala. So we start by moving our arms out of the way. Take our arm, we want the foot part, the toes, to point forward, and we want the top of the leg to line up with the belly button that we created earlier. When we turn it sideways, we want it to line up with the arm that's already in place as well as with the ear. Once we're happy, we pop our 2 pins in, and as you can see, it's in line with the arm and it's in line with the ear. We're then going to do the same with the leg on the other side. Want to have it in line with the arm, in line with the ear, and height wise we want to line it up with the belly button. Once we're happy, pop the pins in place, and then we double check from the front, side, other side, from the back, and very importantly from the bottom. When you check from the bottom, you want to make sure you see you've got your line there and your line there, that they are pointing at the same angle before you attach the legs permanently. And that's our positioning to pin the legs in place. The next step is to actually attach the legs. We're going to use the same method we used for the arms. So we've got our really big upholstery needle, we've got fishing line on that needle. We flip our bear over. We're going to start at a random spot in the back, push to our left hand side so that the needle comes out at the top of the leg, right over there. Again, like last time, we want to leave a tail of fishing line hanging out the back, and we want to make sure that that tail does not get pulled through. We're again going to enter through the same hole we exited, push our big needle all the way through the body, and allow it to exit through the leg on the other side, like this. Feed our fishing line through. Going to repeat that. Go in through the same hole, push the needle all the way through to the other side. Going to repeat it one more time, in through the same hole, push all the way through to the other side. And now, instead of pushing all the way through, we still go in through the same hole, but we're going to exit at the same point where we started originally, in the middle of the back, so that we've got our starting and our finishing ends of the fishing line coming out of the same hole. We do this so that we can knot these ends together. With the first one, we want to pull quite tight. Once you've pulled tight a bit, as I have, you can take your pins out to make sure that your legs stay in place and that none of the fishing line is caught on one of the pins. So pull tight again once they're out, and then it's time to actually knot your fishing line into place. I like to make several knots to make sure that it just stays put. and doesn't come loose. There we go. Once you're happy, just snip off the fishing line and push the end that's left into the body. Should not be able to feel it when you do that. And voila, you have movable legs that can go to a seated position or a standing position for Kylie the Koala.